Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today, I have with us, he's a director, and he has a proof of concept that's going to be a horror animated series, which is called Boo. I have with us Logan Willer. Logan, welcome to the Horror Realm.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on, man. Listen, I got a chance to see the trailer of Boo, but tell my viewers a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Boo is, like you said, an animated horror concept. The full project is kind of inspired by old Universal monster movies. It follows an actor who's kind of inspired by Vincent Price, who ends up having a mysterious ghost that appears in his house. It's a small child, and together they end up combating evil entities called soul catchers, and they're trying to essentially solve the mystery of what happened to Boo, while they're also bonding together too.
And that's a fun concept, man. It's a fun concept, and the animation is great. It has that old black and white feel to it. So, was that tough with the animation wise, getting the illustrations and stuff done?
Yes, I found an artist online through Instagram actually. So we ended up working on the trailer together. And I also had another animation project. So another artist came on to do the backgrounds. Black and white, luckily, we're more focused on kind of like the shadow work, what we wanted to light versus what we didn't want to light. It was less about the color palettes and more about what we wanted to kind of keep in the dark versus what we wanted to show.
And it has that classic eerie vibe and feel to it, which I love. Now, when it came to your project, did you always wanted to do the animated side of horror, or did you also want to do like a live feature as well?
Yeah, I have projects that I'm working on currently, short films and then bigger productions into actual film. Animation's just always had a soft spot in my heart. I always enjoyed it as a medium, and especially with horror, it's such a twisted way to kind of get into people's minds. Especially in the U.S., a lot of people look at animation as kind of this kids medium, so it's really easy to kind of do the rug pull on them, especially when something really creepy or horrifying shows up on screen.
So I have a question. So why do you think? And I agree with you. Like, I'm 42. I'm a huge, animated series fan. Grew up on X Men, and I'm glad they brought it back on Disney. And I'm a huge fan of horror. How come? So why do you think when it comes to Hollywood or even indie level, why that hasn't been connected animation and horror?
I think a big reason is just Hollywood right now doesn't want to take any risks. A lot of what they're looking at is established IP or established productions. So they're usually looking at things that have been proven to work, or they're looking at stuff that they can aim towards kids. Usually, with the animation side of things, they want to look at things that they can turn into toys, which most kids don't want to buy a Jason Voorhees or anything creepy like that. So usually, that's why it's not mixed as much. I do think it is kind of something that could be a good segue. I know Has Been Hotel has been a really big one that was on Amazon. Kind of had a horror-ish element to it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a good breakaway of what I've been trying to do is kind of show this cutesy animation side, but then also have these really terrifying moments within the show.
So I'm probably showing my age. I don't know if you've seen this movie, but it was a movie that came out in the '90s. It was called Cool World. It was one of Brad Pitt's first movies, and it was an adult theme movie that had this cutesy animated side to it as well. And it was something that was revolutionary and wasn't done before. Unfortunately, I don't think audiences were ready for it, but it became a cult classic over the years.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of films that kind of inspired this project that have been like cult classics. I know Over the Garden Wall, upon its initial release, wasn't as big, but it's gained a huge cult following over the years. That's something that I think the show would kind of benefit over. Is just over time, I think people would start to kind of tap into it and start to enjoy it more once they found it.
And I know, as a filmmaker, it takes a long time when it comes to pre-production, editing, production, and post-production. Now, does it take it longer to make an actual feature length or a short film than an animated series?
Um, Typically, the animation will take a little bit longer. It kind of depends what you're looking to do. One of the things with animation that's really cool is you can do whatever you want. Your imagination is kind of the limits. Versus live action, it would be a lot harder to shoot what I made in the proof of concept. That would probably take longer in the grand scheme. It also just depends on your team size. So this was made with myself and 2 other animators. It probably took us about 3 to 4 months to crank this one out. A lot of the other short films, if you're filming something, usually you can crank that a little bit quicker. It just depends on, like you said, the crew size that you have and what you're trying to accomplish in that film.
How do you feel about so many creators are now using AI to create their animated series? Unfortunately, I'm not a fan of it. I think it looks like shit, and I think it sounds like shit. How do you feel about that?
I think there is a possible marriage of it way down the line. I think it's something that could replace one specific part of animation. I don't think it's ever going to replace animation as a whole. A lot of people can very easily tell between what's hand drawn versus what's AI. Just a lot of the AI art feels very lifeless and very stiff. It just isn't there quality wise. My hope is that AI doesn't take over animation at all, because I think it's so much heart and soul goes into the work that I wouldn't want to see that replace any artists in the future. AI wise, I can see it for specific assets or something. If they're doing like a destruction simulation or something in 3D animation, I could see them kind of using AI to help with that aspect, but hopefully it doesn't replace any actual character animation or any big pieces of the project.
I agree, and I mean, I'm seeing it even when it comes to horror books and indie movies. AI is like taking over it now, but I feel like it doesn't have that human aspect, and it's taken away from the human creativity.
Agreed. Yeah, 100%.
Now, one of the important things, when it comes to animation, like I said, I'm a huge animation fan, but the voiceover work is so important. Getting the right individuals to create the characters, have that voice of the characters and that feel. Was that something that was tough for you to find the right individuals to do the voiceover work?
Yeah, it was something that I was particular about with Boo. The main character, Boo, the little ghost, is actually voiced by my friend's 2-year-old son. So I got to work with him. I kind of just had a microphone sitting while we kind of hung out and played around. And that was just, I recorded audio of him doing his thing, and then I used that audio for the actual production. So that was definitely something that I had to kind of work around. As far as working with a smaller child who can't just say whatever line you want them to say. And then with the other actors in the trailer too, I luckily had connections with them beforehand, so I was able to get them cast easily, and they seamlessly went into the role.
Because I mean, for me right now, if you gave me a voiceover work or a character, I think I would have a tougher time doing that than if you gave me a script to be a character in a movie. Because like I don't have something to work off of with the voiceover.
Yeah, I think voiceover work is tough in some aspects. Of you don't have that kind of physicality to play around with. And a lot of the times too, when you're doing like the actual acting, you're in that scene, so it's a lot easier to get into that mental space. Versus voiceover work, you're kind of having to create that character purely off inflection. So it's definitely something when I'm directing, I want to come in with like reference of what I'm looking for, just so I can give that actor, hey, this is kind of like the tone that I'm looking for. This is how I think this character should sound. And I also want to come with some backstory or background of what's going on with the scene, just so they know what they're going for in that scene.
Love it, man. Now, right now, as an indie horror creator, the biggest thing is to get your stuff out there. Now, I see a lot of creators, they're using their own YouTube channel. You have a YouTube channel, by the way. It's down in the description. So definitely check out, like, and subscribe. So a lot of individuals are using YouTube channels to get their work out there. A lot more are doing streaming channels. There's a different one popping up every single day. What are you planning on doing once Boo becomes a series?
Most likely I would post on YouTube. I think YouTube's been a platform that's stayed established, tried and true, versus a lot of these other kind of independent companies that are popping up left and right. I just see a lot of them kind of flaking out or changing policies or changing how they act. I know like Instagram, they've changed their Reels format quite a bit. So that's something I'm not as familiar with and not really interested in playing with their format as much. Versus like YouTube, I know exactly how their algorithm works. I know how when you're posting, how that works, how the layout works. So most likely YouTube with the full production of the show. I would hopefully make it as a package and then sell it to a studio or production company.
Now, would you ever think about doing the film festival route? I see a lot more. I've been to a couple of film festivals, and I've seen a lot more animated horror at the film festivals.
Yeah, I did submit. Can't remember off the top of my head. There's a horror festival that's coming up that I did submit Boo to. That is something I've looked at a little bit. Most likely, when I have an actual established more of a short film or more of a pilot episode, I would probably submit that. Right now, since it's just the proof of concept, it's a little more of a niche category for me to try to find, at least to submit to a festival.
Now, Logan, as the creator, have you voiced yourself? Do you have a character for yourself in your series?
I don't have a set character for myself. I did do a couple of the monster voices in the trailer, towards the beginning and towards the middle piece of the trailer, just to fill in. Ideally, I probably wouldn't want to voice act myself. I might be behind the camera or kind of directing. But yeah.
Because I mean, I love Seth MacFarlane, and he puts himself into a lot of the characters, and but at the same time, like I've always said to myself, like filmmakers who put themselves in every single one of their movies, it's kind of like a vanity project at that point, isn't it?
I think it can be at certain points. I mean, it depends on what you're doing too. Like if you're like Stan Lee, I think that's fine. That's kind of comical and a nice little like cameo for people to see. If you're a director and you're doing, I think Quentin Tarantino can be a little self-indulgent with his scenes and cameos and stuff. Just when it goes on a little bit too long, or when you kind of have a character that's very much you, and that's where it starts to be a little bit of a vanity project.
I agree. Or where you're the lead star in every one of your movies, and you're the guy that's getting all the hot chicks and this and that, and like, come on, dude. Steven Seagal is like famous for that.
Yeah.
All right, Logan. So this is something fun that I do every once in a while with my guests. I'm gonna ask you 3 random horror questions. These are your personal opinion.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right. So the first question is, what was the first horror movie that you saw that really scared the shit out of you?
Ooh. I think that really, really got to me was It Follows. I've seen horror films that kind of got like scared me a little bit, but It Follows actually got under my skin for a little bit, to the point where like if I saw somebody walking down the street, I was like, all right, like I'm thinking of that movie now a little bit. Yeah, probably that one sticks out.
That's a good one. And by the way, it's an underrated horror film too. Definitely underrated horror film. The second one is, what horror movie series would you say has been the most consistent horror series? I'm not saying all the movies are the greatest, but consistently they're not that bad.
Oof. Trying to think off the top of my head. I personally have liked a lot of the Alien movies. I know people kind of fluctuate on them, but I always enjoy like the different interpretations. I would probably say the Alien off the top of my head.
You know what? I'm gonna agree with you. There's not a horrible Aliens movie, except for, I guess, if you include the Alien versus Predator movies, then if you include them into the Alien movie, then they're definitely horrible. But if you just stick with Aliens, they're not that bad.
No, they're not. Even some of the bad ones aren't that bad in the grand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. What horror movie series do you wish would take a break?
Ooh. I would probably say Halloween off the top of my head.
Everybody says Halloween.
I think that's just one that's overstayed its welcome a little bit. I think it was 2018 when they did the newest one. I think that one was fine. I just think they need to revamp that somehow, or kind of let it rest a little bit.
I agree. I'm a huge Halloween fan. The original is my favorite. I love that series. I don't care to see another Halloween in the next 10 to 20 years. I really don't. I mean, I can take that and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't want to see another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie anytime soon.
That's a fair one.
Those are my 2 that I'm totally give it a rest. Let me forget about them and then bring something new and original out 10, 15 years from now.
I agree.
All right, Logan, where can everyone find you and your work?
Yeah, on my YouTube channel, 20201 Productions. I have quite a few projects on there right now, more to come. And then also on my Instagram, Logan Wheeler James. You can find me on there as well.
Awesome. And everybody down, once again, down in the description, I have the link to Logan's YouTube channel. Please check out the trailer of Boo. Check out all his work, subscribe, like, and share. Logan, it's been a blast to have you on. Listen, once Boo the series is on, I want to have you come back. I want to watch it and have you back on, and we can definitely talk about it.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Awesome. Well, listen, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to another edition of the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Logan Wheeler. We'll see you next time. Take care.